The Rams keep finding ways to pay the key pieces of the team that led them to their first Super Bowl victory since the greatest show-offs in turf in 1999. 22 years later, they are the champs, and they are keeping everyone happy, from Matthew Stafford to Aaron Donald, and now to Super Bowl 56 MVP, asterisk, Cooper Kupp, because it should have been Aaron Donald. Sorry, Cooper. Cooper knows it, too. Cooper knows it would have been OBJ, and it should have been Aaron Donald. But he's the one with the trophy and whatever else you get to be the Super Bowl MVP, and he now has the contract. 3-year, $80 million extension. I still haven't seen the full breakdown. We'll see. We'll see what it really is, because he wasn't, according to him, trying to break the bank, set a new bar, reset the market. We'll see. They didn't do for him what they did for Aaron Donald. For Aaron Donald, they tore up the 3 remaining years and gave him a 3-year deal to replace it at a $40 million raise. With Kupp, it's more like a standard deal. They've extended him. I'm waiting to see the full details to really get into exactly what he's going to get or what he's not going to get in comparison to some of the other top receivers, because he said himself, again, he wasn't aspiring to beat them or match them.
Right, yeah. I mean, you're right, and I don't expect it to be anything record-breaking. I mean, that number itself, 3 years, $80 million. You know, there was the reports out there that was maybe it could be, 5 years, 120. I don't know. That confused me. Either way, the 3 years, $80 million, it's a good chunk of change for a guy who we know is in the conversation for top receivers in football. You know, I'll say this. I mean, Aaron Donald, you get paid that contract because you're arguably the best defensive player in football. As we talked about, you're probably the best player in the history of the franchise and in the conversation for the greatest defensive player ever. You know, Cooper Kupp, even though in the conversation for top receivers in football, this was the first year that we talked about him being that type of, in that elite category. Ooh, is he a top 5 guy? Whoa, his name, let's throw it around there with the Deebo Samuels and Jamar Chases and Devontae Adams of the world. So this is the first year he's come on the scene like that as far as being in the conversation there. And I think this is the right spot, the sweet spot, as far as the money is concerned and what makes sense for him and the Rams. And, you know, it seems just right, really. It does.
Yeah, his progression went from being the number 2 guy behind Robert Woods to being 1A and 1B to last year really taking over to the point where early in the season there was some consternation from Robert Woods. There was some comments about that. Sean McVay did his best glass half full routine to make it look like Robert Woods wasn't upset. And then I think it was the Thursday night game against the Seahawks. They started force-feeding Woods the ball to placate him a little bit. And that all continued until Woods tore his ACL in practice on the same day that Odell Beckham signed his contract. And that issue ended, and then he was traded after the season to the Titans. But Kupp took over the receiver room last year 1 week at a time. And ultimately what we saw is a season that was on par with Calvin Johnson in 2012, even though that extra game helped him pump up catches and yards. It was still one of the great seasons in NFL history for a receiver.
It was. And then as we discussed yesterday, or maybe it was the day before, there is an importance to the offense. You know, the all the option and jerk routes and the thing that, hey, the coaches, hey, we need that one receiver we could trust. Cooper Kupp's that guy, let alone he developed a special connection with Matthew Stafford. And I think that's probably another reason you could probably look at it and go, hey, that's, you know, I think they found the sweet spot. He doesn't need or deserve to be the top paid receiver in football. Let's see a little bit more. He was really good. We know that. Matthew Stafford and that combination certainly helped him out and took him to another level. It took their whole offense to another level. We see the more of the talents of McVay and his ability to call more aggressive down the field passing plays, and we got to see all that Cooper Kupp had to deliver because, you know, again, no disrespect to Jared Goff, you just had a quarterback in Matthew Stafford who can do everything, and it just opened up the field, the playbook, and everything in that way, and we got to really see what Cooper Kupp's all about. And hey, I mean, I don't know what you feel, Mike. I don't know if I look at him as going, he's a top 2 or 3 receiver, but I think he's in that top 5 conversation for some, certainly top 8 in there, somewhere in there, but hell of a player and very important to what they do on that side of the ball.
the question that I think is becoming more and more relevant to the receiver position is if you remove the guy who currently is a star in that system, how hard would it be to replace him? What would the drop-off be?
It's a good way to do it.
To Allen Robinson, if for some reason Cooper Kupp wasn't available to play this year. I'm not going to put the jinx on him by saying because he's injured. But for some reason, if Cooper Kupp wasn't available to play, does Allen Robinson become Cooper Kupp? Are there other guys out there that you can find? Can you draft somebody to become your next Cooper Kupp? How special is the skill set in relation to how hard will it be to replace the skill set with someone else? So I think that's why the Titans traded A.J. Brown.
Yeah, I hear you.
They thought we'll get Treylon Burks and he'll come in and he'll get it done. And we'll see. It's the great experiment that may go a long way toward convincing other teams that when the time comes to give the huge money to a receiver, the cost dollar for dollar for the next guy on the depth chart, the next guy you go find, draft, trade, free agent, whatever, is it more sensible to do that? We know that that's how teams view their players. They are all interchangeable parts in a machine. They eventually will be changed out for other parts. It's just a question of when. How many years until we have to change this part for a replacement? How much does this part cost? How much will the next part cost? That's how they view it. I don't like it because it dehumanizes the players, but that's what they do. In the broader structure of a football team, the players become jigsaw puzzle pieces. And so the Rams decide to keep Cooper Kupp, reward Cooper Kupp, and it gets back to what we said 2 days ago, Chris. It's fine as long as you have players that you can count on to replace your high-priced players, any of them. And not just the high-priced players, other starters. It doesn't just have to be Aaron Donald, Jalen Ramsey, Cooper Kupp, Matthew Stafford getting injured, and then, next man up is a guy who was a sixth-round rookie. It's any of your starters because you can't afford to have a middle class that is receiving anything more than the minimum salary for 1, 2, 3 years in the league because all those backup positions, and I haven't done a full dive into the Rams roster, but I would suspect that at most of the positions other than starter, it's a bunch of guys where you're like, I don't know if he's got to play.
Young guys and journeymen.
I don't know.
Yeah, right. Sure. Yeah. No, you're exactly right, and that's what. Hey, it's the amazing thing about the Rams because we've really been saying this for 3 years now, and they seem to somehow kind of dodge the bullet. And again, I think I got to give credit to McVay there. He seems to have the right feel for how hard to push them, practice them, workouts, whatever, that combination. He's found that. But hey, that's the game they're playing. It's high stakes poker. There's no doubt about it. And yes, I mean, 1 or 2 injuries, it doesn't matter where it's at. It's trouble. We kind of saw that in the Super Bowl a little bit. We started getting into the no-name territory. Wait, who's this tight end? Who's this guy playing receiver out here? So they have flirted with that, and that's where they are right now, certainly. But they got some star players. They play a game where it's just, hey, McVay coaches them. They're sound. We play tough football, and they expect in the big games these star players to come through and make big-time plays, and they've done that for the most part, especially last year, and Cooper Kupp being one of them. And I think you explained it right with the receiver thing. They got to find the right balance there, these teams. And Cooper Kupp, he's got a little bit of that. He's got, you can't trust anybody to do that job. That's what I'll say about that. Even though he might not be quite as physically gifted as a Justin Jefferson or a Jamar Chase or a Deebo Samuel, where you can just go line up outside, whoever covers you one-on-one, they're screwed over, and you'll win all day long. He's not far from that. But his value to the scheme in McVay, I think, is really, to your point, that's the part that they probably went, that's not easy to find, this guy. The guy that has size and strength, because Cooper Kupp's a bigger guy, quickness of a Wes Welker or a Julian Edelman, and the smarts of those type of guys as well to be able to read coverages and never make the wrong cuts. That's where he really does have value, and they had to pony up some money to make sure he's a part of that offense.
Hi, I'm Mike Tirico, and thanks for watching. Make sure to hit subscribe for the latest news and highlights from NBC Sports.